Happy Friday, and thanks for tuning into RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norm, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Adele Abide.
Excellent.
Yeah, who I asked. I don't know if you heard the voices when we went live. I just thought, I'm like, I don't even know how to pronounce your surname.
Well, I get it asked all the time because I say it with a real thick accent, Abide, but it's really like Abide.
Where is that
Abide?
accent
I'm
come
Lebanese.
from?
I'm Lebanese from Mississippi, and I went to school at Rhode Island School of Design, but I had a teacher that called me a Dehu, Norm, because my accent was so thick.
Called you what?
A Dehu. So if you're a close friend, all my close friends call me a Dehu. I can't believe I'm telling this story, actually. Everyone in town's going to be calling me a Dehu, but...
Why a Dehu? How do you get that?
Because I guess it was so thick. I don't even really remember.
Does that...
It would just be so thick, an accent. And I guess I talked real slow. And yeah, I go by my middle name, so they would call out in class my first name. And so I would have to correct the teacher. And I would say, I go by Adele Abide, but I guess I would say, I go by Adele Abide.
And what's your first name?
Ooh, it's Jean.
Jean, that's a lovely name.
It's my mother's name.
Uh-huh.
But I used to, I'm like, Jean, I'm going to be like, oh my God. So they used to, in high school and growing up, I went by Dale. Dele, just Dale.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah. And so then I went to college and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go by Adele, which was my actual name.
I see.
My middle name.
And high school was in Cleveland, Mississippi?
Cleveland, Mississippi.
Where in the world is that?
It's in the heart of the Delta, the Mississippi Delta, which is an area an hour and 45 minutes south of Memphis and right on the river.
Okay.
The Mississippi River. So it's mostly agriculture. So big farmers, like totally flat, Norm. You could jog anywhere. I lived in the center of town. My dad was a dentist. And then, within 5 minutes, you're out in cotton fields.
Right.
So they grew soybean, rice, and cotton.
Uh-huh. And how big was your high school? Did it draw from that town or from the county?
It did. And growing up, I went to this, up until 8th grade, my family, I went to this private school, which in Mississippi, growing up in the 80s, the public schools weren't really, that great. And so, all these, wealthy kind of farmers got together and they created these private schools, but they were terrible, like beyond terrible. I had like 20 kids in my class, 12 kids in my class. The football coach would come and write, 3 equations and would split, and then, one kid, Chuck Balducci, would do the math equation. And, I was just like, I got to get out of here. And I guess I have older siblings and the school was a lot better for them. But by the time I came along, it was just terrible.
How much older were they?
8 years, 5 years, old enough to kind of make a difference. There were more, I think there were just more people in the community sending their kids to that school. But by the time I came around, most of the people were going to the public school. So I ended up petitioning my family and, convincing my dad that I could go to this public school and it would be okay, which I did.
And so you went from the private school where the rich farmers
which was
sent
in
their
Boyle, Mississippi. I'm just going to say they were real,
the wealthier.
This is so, yeah. Well, they were farmers.
Those who
they
had
the means. That's
yeah.
right.
So was it culture shock going from this private school to public school?
No, they were like all of the people that I knew.
In the public school?
It was great, yeah.
Oh, sweet.
My dad, it's complicated. It's so...
We got a whole hour.
Oh, my God. I don't think we have enough to touch on. And I'm so terrible at saying stuff that's totally inappropriate, Norm.
Oh, good.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Well, so let me just ask
Just
again.
describing that whole... People are so curious about it.
Really? People in general, telling me more about that?
When I went to college, I remember thinking for years, I must have only gotten into RISD because they needed someone to show up from Mississippi. I wasn't talented. I had nothing. I just fit the quota, it was just, it was a place that you lived in this sort of box, and a lot of people didn't leave. And it is a great sense of culture, but I just, wanted more,
And what was the culture down there apart from farming? It's on the Blues Trail, right?
Yeah, it's on the Blues Trail. I grew up in this pretty amazing town at the time. Delta State University was there, and so there was a huge art community. And my mom, she was really an artist at heart. She was she played piano. She ran the music at our church. That was a big part of her life. She was always at church playing the piano or the organ, and she used to take me to hear classical pianists that came and played, at the school. I grew up listening to a lot of that, and I really, have more of her than my dad, who was a dentist.
Right.
And
what about your siblings?
My sister's a nurse, and my brother's a dentist.
Oh. Did both of them leave Cleveland, or?
I grew up. My dad got sick when I was like in third grade.
Oh boy!
And then he ended up dying when I was in ninth grade.
Egads.
And so when I went to the public school, he passed away 6 months later, or like he died in November, actually, a couple days after Thanksgiving.
Wow.
So I had started school in August, and then he died in November. But he'd been sick, Norm, for a really long time.
Right.
And then I had a brother that had cancer.
Yes.
He was diagnosed maybe like a year after my
Right.
dad got sick. And then, and then I had his brother passed away. And 5
Your
years
uncle.
before my dad passed away.
Okay.
And so they were really tight. We grew up next to one another. He had 5 kids, and they were mostly older. And I had one. He had a daughter who was my age and 2 years older. So I think for the older, my uncle.
These are your cousins.
Yeah, my cousins.
And they were in Cleveland as
And
well.
they were in Cleveland too.
Love
yeah.
that. Cleveland, Mississippi.
Cleveland, Mississippi. But anyway, that really impacted my childhood, and that really, the arts really folded me in. It saved my life. It took me over, and I had some incredible teachers that really, told me about RISD. I mean, I had no idea. My mom was just like trying to make it.
And what form was your artistic creativity taking in high school?
I wanted to be a fine painter. I was an artist. I used to paint, and people would buy my work, and I was I danced ballet. I was a really serious dancer.
Wow.
My 11th or 12th grade, I would go away for the summer and do these programs and dance.
And so did you get
Classical
together
ballet.
a portfolio for RISD?
I did.
And was that in
I did
painting
it.
or
My
dance?
mom had no idea. And Pat Brown, my art teacher, helped me put together the portfolio. And I got this. I was going to go to Millsaps College in Jackson, Mississippi, and study medicine.
Uh-huh.
And I got in, and I was just like, I was sort of like, this is a sign from God. I gotta go.
Got into RISD.
Yeah, so I left.
Do you still have that portfolio?
I actually do. I have one piece in my bedroom that I have always kept, Norm, because when it was a portrait of this girl, Jenny Dawson, and she was wearing, it's so funny, because we reconnected on Facebook, but I knew when I drew that portrait that I was an artist. I don't know. It was sort of like this moment that I recognized, like, I could do this.
Right.
Or I don't know. I think a lot of people maybe have that when you're a kid.
I didn't.
I don't know, but I did. I have it in my room.
Oh, love that.
In my bedroom.
And did you send Jeannie Dawson a picture of it?
I did, actually. I did. And like I won a lot of, like I did the graphics for the public school system and kind of won. There was a competition, and I won a lot of awards, I would say, in art. I was recognized a lot when I was in high school, and people asked me to do things for them. And sometimes I think in a weird way, Norm, I used to think people were taking pity on me because I had such a terrible childhood. I didn't really recognize it like talent.
Right.
I just felt like a really oddball. I really did.
And when you look,
I still kind of feel like an oddball. I do.
Well, you don't seem like an oddball.
I know,
but we
but-
still have 40 minutes left.
Yeah.
Well,
I won't say too much.
so when you look back on your creative output from that era, do you see what the admissions people saw? Do you see it with not they're taking pity on me?
I
But
think it's taken me till I was really in Well, God, I had many people in my career that were much older than me that hired me, and I had wonderful relationships to say, "Hey, you're incredibly talented. Hey, I don't know if there were people that helped validate what I had, that helped me grow, and luckily, I've had that my whole life. I still have it. I'm 53, and I feel like I'm on this whole other path. I feel incredible. I mean, it's just wonderful.
Did you believe that validation at the time? Like, oh, wow, I guess I am okay. They're all telling me I'm good.
Well, I worked in the admissions office when I was in college. So I learned a lot about that process. And I learned that year that there were more girls accepted than boys. So the talent was a lot heavier girls. So they do a blind cull. And then they had to go back and weed people out to keep the freshman class balanced.
Right.
And so I married someone who went to that school, and I always said, hey, the women our year will weigh more, whatever, who knows. But I don't think until I was much older did I start really believing in myself. 30s. I mean, I got a job and I had the intern and always worked for people, but I think there's a lot of always self-doubt, never feeling good enough. I didn't love it enough, maybe.
I think that's a hallmark of being an artist. Most artists say that. So when you went there to RISD from Cleveland, and you said a teacher told you about this place.
Major culture shock.
Yeah.
Major.
What was that? Were you self-conscious with your accent?
Oh, yes.
Small town?
Yes. Well, and also, I felt so just a country bumpkin. I had, my college roommate was from the Middle East. She was Palestinian. She was all, I mean, she's incredible. We still are very close. But her life had been very different from mine. And really, the culture, it was very global. They traveled, the money. I mean, it was so different. But I think the one thing about the South that they do well is you learn how to be social. You have lots of social graces. And so I think because of that, I just immediately connected with all the Euro kids because they were very formal a little bit. They went out to dinner and you talked and on the flip side of that, you had these crazy, dirty, guys from the East Coast, and they were sculptors and they smoked and it was just crude and, I don't know, people were getting drunk. And I feel like the South, well, they definitely prepared you to drink. You're drinking at 13, 14. Felt like I could handle my booze better than most people. It was just all over the place, Norm.
So was that attractive to you? That's sort of the cliche, chain smoking sculptor with a pickup truck and
motorcycles.
Yeah.
I'm
no freshman girl in college, but I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds
well, number
sexy.
one, when we went to the school, my brother, who had become my dad at the time, was like, this school, these people are filthy. They don't look like, you're not going here. And I was like, I am going to this school. And anyway, so I go. But I really was miserable, I would say, the first year and a half. And everybody told me I would not make it. And I just was determined to show them that I could do this.
Who was saying that? Your brother?
Oh, my God. Just so many people. The head of the art department at Delta State, advised my mother not to let me go because the kids had been so, they'd had so much more of a, drawing background, And it's true. So many people had gone to intense art schools and they had already experienced nude drawing classes and, these intense, it was like a business, it was like work. You went to school 8 to 5. 8 to 5, and you had, drawing,
wow.
2-dimension, 3-dimension, 2D, 3D classes. And then you could only work in black and white. You couldn't bring in color. It was just really incredible. And the student body, my class, so many talented people. Seth MacFarlane was in the class, and, Kara Walker was there. She was a grad student.
Right.
Lindsay Adelman was there. I mean,
it's a top art and design school.
It was really incredible. And it's small, so you really got to know everybody.
Right. That's great. And when you went there, you thought, I'm going to be a painter?
I wanted to be a painter, but my mom said, I'm not going to pay the money to let you be a painter. I'll let you go, but you have to get a practical arts degree. So I decided to be a fashion designer. So I went into fashion. And to be quite honest, I really was not. I mean, I think I was tortured the whole way through. We had to sew, pattern making. I learned how to knit. I hate to knit, and I actually hate to sew. Hate to sew. I would, my senior thesis, everyone had done these like incredible tailored jackets and their stitch was perfect. I literally designed things that I could put together with eye hooks. Just because I hated it so much.
But don't you have to sew the eye hooks on?
Well, yeah, but no one really looks at that. And then I cast the torsos of my models in plaster, and then I took a blowport torch and I coated them with wax, and then I did this like crazy patina, and they were sort of like Grecian warriors. I was really looking back, I was really wanting to be a sculptor.
Yeah.
And fashion, that was looking, it's a miracle, but the school was so great because they kind of let you kind of have your own experience. It's a miracle, Norm. My mom paid for it.
Yeah. God bless you. Thanks, Mom.
I know. I mean, it's really incredible. I was buying blocks of stone. One semester I carved, piece of sculpture out of a piece of alabaster. I mean, do you
still have that?
I do. My mom has it. I do.
That's so sweet.
I have all of this stuff.
And were you wanting
I made shoes, Norm, to go with my outfits.
I want to see all the stuff.
Well, I got rid of those, but my freshman year in our 3D class, we were given a motor. And our teacher said, I want you to make something that incorporates this motor that has to do with your chosen degree. And so I was in fashions, and Madonna had just come out. So I made this like bustier that spun, these things.
What kind of motor
on
was
your boobies? It was just this tiny little motor, Norm. So people put it in various different things. And, yeah. I know. Anyway, so I put that on freshman year. But we used to have these sales, and believe it or not, I set up a table, and I sold quite a few. The motorized bustiers. Yes, I think I made 3 or 4, and then after that I had to call people and say, this is taking way too much time. I'm sorry, but here's your money back.
Right.
Yeah, but Madonna, there was so much really great stuff going on in the early 90s that it's just such a great time to be involved in the art world, and it was really cool.
Did you feel yourself sort of becoming distanced from your hometown, from the small town origins?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure, Norm. I mean, that's like a battle my whole life, and therapy, and 1 foot here, 1 foot there. Who am I? Where am I from? Yeah, it's still ongoing at 53, a little. I mean, I'm really close to my sister. My sister and my brother-in-law are awesome.
Right.
And my husband's great. Yeah, but yeah, it's hard.
And can you talk to your mom about that? I mean, she's a small town girl, right? And stayed in the small town. I
mean, I think she kind of gets it, but
right.
I mean, I don't know if I even get myself, Norm. Who does? You're just kind of going through life, and I knew I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but then I did want to be a stay-at-home mom. I never wanted to have kids. I had 3 kids. So, I mean, that's life, right? Can't really plan. It just happens.
Yeah. I mean, you can plan as long as you're open to being wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So you finished college. You got the degree in fashion.
Well, I finished college. I got a degree. I got a job before I even graduated.
No way.
I did. I was an assistant fashion designer for Maggie London. And I had an intern with Mary McFadden before that. And then before that, I interned with Eric Dravitz. I thought I wanted to be a milliner, and I made hats one summer. And so then I got a job.
Are you a hat person?
Yeah, I love hats. I love hats. I mean, I do love fashion. I realize as an adult now that probably like a chef, a lot of chefs had terrible childhoods or they had trauma, And so they go into food because they need to control things. And I realize it probably comes from a place of control, Norm. So I'm doing, I'm an interior designer, and I realize that I love the control of all of that.
Right.
It's like safe, and I can make things beautiful because the world is ugly and hard.
And you're also an enthusiastic cook.
I do. I love to cook.
So what's on tap for Thanksgiving? Yeah.
Well, I'm making Lebanese food. We're going down to Mississippi, and I'm making, I don't know, two different. Well, everyone's pitching in, but kibbe and
you're
two
going
different
to going to your mom's house.
Well, we go to my sister's house.
Okay.
My sister is really sort of like she keeps the family together, and she's incredibly talented herself. She's a master gardener, and like the land is her palette.
Right.
But she was a nurse. She married a doctor. Very, what we were raised to do. At least my people.
Your people.
I mean,
So you mean Southern people or sort of Southern Lebanese people?
Southern Lebanese.
Yeah.
The little, everyone's in a certain little thing, and that's where, I'm from, and that was what was expected.
Right. And how many generations back did your forebears come here from Lebanon?
Well, my dad was first generation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So his folks came over.
Yeah, like 1890. His mother's side, the Malouf clan, came over in the 1890s. And then they did very well. The Abide family, which is, my father, my father's father, I think he came like in his 20s, alone maybe.
To Mississippi.
Well, they came into Ellis Island, and they just sort of went down there where they could make money, and I think they had family, But
it was, it seems it was a hotbed of Lebanese immigrants.
Well, there were a lot of Italians. There were a lot of Italians there. Right. And then the Lebanese, I'm related to like every single Lebanese person in that area. And, I think they just knew one another. They had families, so they took care. They're like, my father's father opened up a grocery store next to like the cotton gin. They were smart, and they all pooled their money together. And then, he came later than my grandmother's family, the Malouf. They had been here since the 1890s. They were actually quite wealthy, and I think they started off as farmers, and then they bought a bunch of real estate. They had renters, like shotgun shacks, like it. I'm not talking like apartments. It was like kind of,
right.
I don't know, slummy, or they had houses, and then they got one opened a liquor store. One had a furniture store. They were all in different businesses.
And was there much bigotry, prejudice against the Lebanese population?
Yes, Norm. Absolutely. I think that's why my dad became a dentist and his brother became a doctor, because they were trying to be accepted by high society, which kind of cracks me up.
Right.
Because it's the Mississippi Delta. But yeah, I was a debutante, and, that was a big deal for my dad. And I had this uncle who basically was a bootlegger, Uncle Foed. And he'd made a ton of money, and everyone knew him in the state. And it was very important to be respected and to be a good they loved America, and
Was that important to your mom too?
Well, my mom is from Tennessee. She's a country woman. No, I think she was really charmed by my dad's family.
Right.
And my dad had these 4 uncles, Uncle Foed being one, but they wore like 3-piece suits and little top hats, and he kind of looked like Telly Savalas, and they were just so elegant. They were all so elegant and charming and lovely. They dressed well, and they would, come sit in my chair and have a drink. And, they had a buzzer on the floor, and someone would bring out food. And, it was really, growing up, it was magical.
Yeah,
but looking back now, I'm like, oh, God, I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It always is for teenagers. So your dad wanted to be in society, and he wanted you to have a coming out ball, or be a debutante.
But then, he died when I was 14. So he wasn't there for any of that for me.
Because that's 15, 16?
It's 14 when you're a page. He was alive for that, and then he died. But my sister made her debut with no dad, and same with me. But yeah, it was a very male society, still pretty much is.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad was very Arab, and I think, that's a whole thing unto itself, which, shaped a lot of who I am today. Unspoken word. And, I didn't need anyone to say anything. I was just observing, taking it in.
But that thing, like the debutante ball and stuff, it's basically, here's the girls becoming of age.
Yeah.
On display.
With the bachelor club. Because those are the right boys for the right girls to marry. That's why that was formed.
And was there just one sort of like cotillion or whatever you call it down there in Cleveland?
You mean debutante?
Debutante ball?
Every region had their own debutante ball. But, the Delta people would say that they're the most sophisticated. They know how to entertain. It's all like a pecking order.
But there wasn't like a Lebanese version of it. It was just one thing in that community.
And if so, my dad probably would have poo-pooed that. He really wanted us to be part of that society.
Yeah.
Even though we always had Lebanese food on Sundays, and when I went off to college, sometimes I think, wow, did they know that I was Lebanese? And that's why they put me with this Palestinian girl from the Middle East.
Right.
Because we had so many, even though I was from the Mississippi Delta, she was from Amman, Jordan, we ate the same food. I knew a lot of Arabic words, and there was, on some level, I remember thinking like, oh God, my dad, that, I don't know, I have all these things that he's dead, but what do I call them? It's an affirmation, Norm. And like, that's my dad had some, he's seeing me. I'm with this Middle Eastern girl to kind of, and I really kind of connected a lot with that Middle Eastern side on some level.
Right. If I may ask one more question about the debutante ball, I'm very curious.
Yeah.
You said that you had felt some prejudice down there being of Lebanese origin. I'm wondering, did that change after you came out after the debutante ball?
No. Oh, no. No. And not for me growing up. I never felt like that.
Did you expect it might?
No. This was for my dad growing up, feeling prejudiced, feeling that. But by the time I came, and grew up, I didn't feel any of that, Norm, at all. There were other people that were Lebanese in my town. I had friends that were Italians. I had black friends, but, no, it was more still very black-white, that.
And I lived down south.
Oh, you did? Where'd you live down south?
Well, 4 years in Dallas.
Oh.
1 year in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so I've got a lot of friends from down there. But it's, and I'm from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Which is just across the Mason-Dixon line.
Right.
But a world apart.
Right.
And I was shocked to see the attitudes down south. So I'm curious to know what it was like growing up there as a...
I think I just wanted out, Norm. I just wanted out. It's a box. You live in the box. I think probably people said to my mom, oh, don't let her go. Maybe because they just didn't want to see me go. I probably wouldn't go back. Because people don't go back. Number one, there's not a lot of ways to make money, Norm. You have to be a doctor or a lawyer, or, you're farming, and that's so hard now and today. There's not a lot of, ways to keep these small towns together, just financially, regardless, then you layer on the South. Right.
And you said on the VLI, what's the URL? For your
VLI Studio?
VLIstudio.com.
Yeah.
You say on there that you, as a teenager, you wanted to go to the big city.
I did.
What did you think was going to happen in the big city? And was it particularly New York?
Well, I took one trip when my dad was alive. Before he passed away, he took us to New York City. We actually drove from Mississippi Delta to Washington, D.C. Then we went to New York City. And Norm, when I got there, I actually, growing up in the South, you're beautiful if you're blonde and blue-eyed.
Right.
And a lot of people growing up, well, this is funny that you say this. I think a lot of people thought they didn't know my ethnicity, but they thought maybe I was half black or something. They just didn't really know. I never felt beautiful. I don't really know. So when I got to New York City, I'm like, oh my God, these are my people.
Right.
They're all different kinds and nobody knows. No one cares. Everyone's, just Mississippi. Again, it's like the box. You live in the box.
Right.
I just loved all the culture and so many different people, and everybody could dress differently. People were just free, Norm.
Yeah. So you got a job right out of college in New York City.
I moved to New York City.
And what were you doing at this job?
I was an assistant dress designer to this company, Maggie London. I literally hated it. I had a rule of thumb that if I thought it was so ugly, they were going to love it, and...
So did you start designing stuff that intentionally ugly?
I was the assistant. Well, it was just sort of like, I just hated it, with these big ugly gold buttons, and it was just very matriarchal. It sold to like Lord and Taylor. I don't even know if they're around anymore. I mean, it was a great job. I had a good, the woman I worked for was really great. I was just bored. I had my own office and I ran the workroom. I just wasn't ready. I needed to explore life a little bit. I wasn't ready to just go all in, 9 to 5, like this is my life. I needed to live a little.
And so what did you do?
So on the side, I started making these little dresses. I had one woman, her name was Yolanda. The workroom people, they were incredible. There was this French guy who was a head cutter who was so fabulous. He would come with his like little brie and bruschetta, just, it was so beautiful. And he was just so tiny. He was lovely. And then there was, there were people from all over the world and they were sewers, these incredible sewers. So Armando, the French guy, made a couple patterns for me for dresses that I sketched up for my own, and I paid him on the side. And then Yolanda would take them home and stitch them up in the evening and bring them back to me. And then eventually that got so big, and then I started selling it on the side that I quit.
So that must have been thrilling to see your designs.
I was thrilled.
Expertly cut up and sewn together.
Yes.
And what were they like, some of the first
Norm.
dresses you designed?
They were just like little sundresses. I mean, very Southern influenced.
What is
cute
that?
little dresses.
What does that mean?
Well,
Southern
it's so
influence?
hot. It's 90 degrees. So you're wearing sort of like Lily Pulitzer little dresses.
Uh-huh.
And then I got into doing prints. I used to design all my own fabrics, Norm, and have them printed. And then it just sort of grew organically.
Right.
And then eventually, I left that. I grew. I had to find a factory to sew it in New York City. And then I was in a showroom, and then I was going to market. And then I think at the peak, I showed during Fashion Week. I was on the calendar, but I wasn't part of the main runway, but I was showing off-site. And, I was in the New York Times came, WWD came, and they actually... gave me a review. Right. And I guess I thought I was like on the up and up. And then I had one season where all of my fabric came in damaged, Norm.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I was, at the time, it was like $20,000. I thought I was going to die. And
where was the fabric printed?
I had to take a break. It was produced in China.
Okay.
In China. And I worked with a middleman in New York City. And I guess he was producing it in China. They were all silk blends.
And it would come to you as like a big bolt of fabric?
Yeah, and it would ship to my my factory.
How many yards in a bolt? Just curious.
Oh, my God, it would just depend. I would break it down with, like, if I sold this one dress and
Gotcha.
a dress needed 3 yards, and maybe I sold 50 units, so, 50 times 3, something like that. I mean, I was definitely so small potatoes, and I never made any money. I was so poor. And all of the money would just go back into the development of the new line. And then I was selling art on the side. And then I was sort of like a fashion designer for hire. I was just doing private labels. People could hire me. I would design a collection and, they would produce it, and that was it.
So it sounds like everything's going great.
I mean, I was hustling. I was a hustler. I mean, it was good, but when I was selling art, that sort of blew up. I was working with another girl, and we happened to meet David Rockwell, and he was just huge at that time. And then all of a sudden, we were like the new flavor in town. We were just sort of like this hot, new, young, cute girls that were selling art. And so we ended up getting all these contracts, and I kind of rode that wave. And I forgot fashion. I just sort of let the fashion. I ended up in a lawsuit. They sued me. I sued them. Whatever. But I was just sort of like over it.
Because
I was just like.
You were making art for Rockwell's
I was not making
or?
it. I was selling it.
I see.
David Rockwell, he did all the W hotels in the U.S., so he was rolling those guys out. So he did the whole art programs in the lobby and all the bedrooms, bathrooms.
And now you're making some real money.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So
and I bought all this crazy artwork, Doho Sue for $5,000. Now his stuff is like 1.3 million. And
oh, nice.
It was just an unbelievable time. And
what
I was in
year
the
is
right
this?
place. 98, maybe 99.
Right.
I don't even really remember. In the 90s, late 90s.
And you're living somewhere in
Park Slope in Brooklyn by myself.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, when did you and how did you meet your husband?
Well, we went to RISD together.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, we met in college.
But then did he move to the city the same time you did?
He did. Well, he was an architect, so he had a 5th year, so he had one more year behind me. So I knew I was going to move into. I always wanted to live in New York City, and he was uncertain, and so he graduated, and I do remember him taking a motorcycle road trip across the country. When we're sort of just talking, and he calls me one day and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I say, "I'm getting ready to go on a date." And he was like, "What?" So he finally decided to move to New York City, Norm. After that.
Well, wait, had you all dated prior to that fateful phone call?
Yeah, on and off. I mean, we dated for like almost 7 years before we got married. I dated so many other people and would break up with him and thought I needed, he'd barely make any money. I think I made more money than him for years, and I would date these older guys and,
Oh, it's tough, that on and off stuff, but you all worked through it.
We did. We made this great, it's pretty crazy. Sometimes I'm like, I can't believe we're doing this.
I love that. So he's like, what the hell? You can't have a date. And
he came back. He came back. I'll never forget. I came out of work and he was sitting on actually kind of romantic now that I think about it. He had 24 roses, Norm. And he was sitting on top of the mailbox when I walked out of work on 7th Avenue. He was sitting there waiting for me to come out of work.
So you worked in 7th Avenue, like right in the middle of the fashion district.
Yeah, I did. On the 15th floor of 525 7th Avenue.
And he's sitting there with 24 roses.
Yeah, he'd just like come in on his motorcycle. He was wearing a motorcycle jacket, like those dirty sculpture guys. And yeah.
So you got your dirty sculpture guy.
Yeah, I did.
Did he smoke cigarettes?
No. Yeah. But I was like, what are you doing? Get off it. You're embarrassing me. Somebody could see me. My boss can come here. But yeah.
And
crazy.
And then what?
And then he got a job with a great architect, and we started doing it. New York City life. It's two creatives. Oh God, it's so long ago, Norm. We've been married for 25 years now.
And who did he get a job with?
ARO, Architecture Research Office.
Did he interview with Sam Rockwell?
No, he didn't. It's so funny because at the time David Rockwell.
David Rockwell.
David Rockwell. He was like, tell your husband we're hiring, come. And he was like, oh no. My husband worked for like real, they were modernist. It was very different. David Rockwell was doing these hotels and, it was, at the time people thought it was trendy. It was just like a whole other thing, coming out of RISD, there were all these levels of design snobs. Everyone is so, just so intense. Yeah. But he had his own path, and it was different.
And so you settled down in Park Slope.
Yeah.
And when did you, and you're still doing fashion?
I'm still doing fashion.
And art.
For just a few years. The art really took off. I ended up doing, I feel like, fashion for really like 4 years, 4 or 5 years. I don't know, 21. And by the time I was 30, I think I maybe had 4 or 5 years selling art.
Right.
That kind of blew up. And then I was on a board in the city for women in networking in the hospitality industry. And I ended up doing all of these other hotels with David Rockwell. I don't know, the Chambers Hotel. I don't know if you're familiar with that on 56th Street. The developer was Ira Drucker. He was a Cornell grad and was also a major art collector. And so he was a developer on this hotel, and he hired us to buy all original art. He gave us $1 million in 1999. I can't even remember, really. It was unbelievable, Norm. That was like next level exposure. All these doors opened up to myself and Leslie, who I was working at the time. And we hired John. We knew that the hotel would put together a catalog. And so we ended up hiring John Yao to write the critical writing for it. And, you know, I bought a lot of stuff with Joe, who started Pierogi Gallery and Clementine Gallery. And Just, it was really unbelievable. You know, John Waters, buying and meeting John, and bought some of his work. And it was really remarkable. Looking back, I don't think I realized. Now I do. Going through it, I just you know.
Right.
I just had no idea.
Going through it, it's just your life.
Yeah.
And looking back, you're like, what?
Wow, this is unbelievable.
So how did that come to an end?
Well, I was on a board, and I met this woman. Her name was Janice Feldman, who started this company called Janice at Sea. And throughout, as I said earlier, I think I'm open. And so I just have these connections with people, and they say, hey, come and work for me. And I just take a leap. It's like a door opens up, and I decide to walk through it. So I was on a board with this woman.
Is the women in hospitality?
Well, yeah. I was a co-chair with this other girl, Hillary Schwartz. She ran the New York office, and her boss was Janice Feldman. And she was just this remarkable woman. She was a force. She was sort of like Martha Stewart of the outdoor furniture world. She was remarkable, Norm. And I just hit it off with this woman. She had no children. She was a widow, and she loved me. I adored her, and she offered me a job. And she was traveling all over the world doing product procurement. And I, at the time, that was like a piece that I wanted. I had never traveled outside of the country.
I see.
And when I was a kid, and she was traveling all over, and she was so sophisticated and so interesting, and I was really drawn toward that. So she offered me a job, and I was like, look, I really am a designer. I'm not in sales. And she was always like, you'll never be a great designer if you don't understand how to be a great salesperson. I can show you. And so I took the job with the caveat that I would travel with her to these shows, trade shows, and if I could get behind how she put these deals together. And so I did it, and I took it, and it was incredible. It was wonderful.
Amazing. But you had a partner in the art placing business.
We never formally formed a partnership, although.
But you worked together.
We worked together, yeah.
And how did she respond to you stepping into this other? I mean,
she got it. I think she was wonderful. She was a bit older than me. She was like 7, 8 years older than me. And she was married. She was beginning to have kids, and she always encouraged me to travel. You know, I got paid $10,000 one time to create a collection for this one company, Chinese company. They paid me all in cash in a brown paper bag. And she was like, Leslie, who I was selling art with, she was like, you need to go travel. Go travel. Take this money, go travel. And, you know, whatever, I did. Anyway, I think I was just looking for the next step.
And so you're traveling on business. And what were some of the most exciting places to go to?
I mean, I would just go to Maison Objet in Paris. And, you know, we went to Germany. And, you know, it was just more her world. You know, it was sort of like the people that I could meet and understanding business norm, flying. It was more really like she ended up selling her company for $80 million. So people say, you know, I don't really know for a fact.
Did you buy it?
I had left. I mean, I had a lot. I've really had a lot of regret. Anyway, the company went corporate, and so a lot of people left. She offered for me to move to California, to Santa Barbara, but I had 2 kids at the time, and I just wanted a break. So I just totally quit. Wow. And we sold our apartment in the city, and Josh had started his own firm, and I think I was exhausted. At that time, I had 2 kids, and I just wanted some time to be a mom.
And so how did you...
But that was 35. It was 35. But so I had 21, started working, and, I had this journey.
And how did you all come to live in Rhinebeck?
Because we needed a public school, a good public school, and Josh just suggested, hey.
But there's others up and down the Hudson, closer to the city.
Well, I had 3 kids at this time, and I wanted to be close to family. Because, Norm, as you remember, my dad died when I was very little. My mom, I wasn't close to any of my family. And when I started having kids, I really, really longed to have this family.
And you had family up
in Catskill.
Oh.
In Catskill. My husband's family is from Catskill, and they have a magical home on the Hudson River right across from Olana. It's a beautiful spot. So we would come and spend time at that house all through 21, 22. When we would get out of the city, we would go there.
Right.
And so we ended up buying a little bungalow in Catskill. So we owned a place in Brooklyn, and Josh was just like, look, if you want to quit, you're not going to move to Santa Barbara. We're going to have to sell this apartment in order to fund this, and so that's what we did.
Smart. You sold that place to fund your dreams.
Yeah, a little. I mean, at the time I was like, what the hell did we do? I need to go back to work. I can't believe this. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I could have stayed in Mississippi if this is really what I wanted to do. It's just, it's a journey with so many highs, so many lows.
So, now, how old were your kids in that bungalow in Catskill?
They were little, 5 and 4, and then Bennett was a newborn.
And so now you're there. You look into the state school, public school rankings, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you thought, Catskill maybe is not where you want to be.
Yeah. That's right. Well, my husband went to Albany Academy for boys, and his sister went to the Academy for girls up in Albany. And I just knew, he was just like, that was miserable. We're not going to commute. So we started looking, first we were looking back in Montclair, Maplewood, New Jersey, and it just didn't feel right. We actually put a bid on a house, and we actually, thank God, got out of it. And then when we came to Rhinebeck, I remember my little kid, Alex, we were riding in the car, and we're just driving around, and I'm like, I think we might move here. And my son, who must have been 6, 7 at the time, he was like, wow, we're moving to Hollywood. Just because of coming from Catskill, New York at the time, everyone is struggling on hard times, and everyone is so shiny and bright and clean and beautiful in Rhinebeck.
Yeah, upscale Rhinebeck.
Yeah.
And so are you still in the place you got?
We are. Yeah.
Lovely.
We rented a house forever because the housing market was so tight.
Right.
When we were looking, and then
what
I ended up
that?
just buying. I don't really remember 2000 and something. Alex was in first grade when we came here, but we rented.
Right. And at some point in there, you decided you wanted to flex your creative muscles for fun and profit.
Yeah, I just had to do something. I had met Sarah Norwood up in Athens, and we hit it off, similar backgrounds, and we were just sort of like, let's start doing interiors. And I was selling art on the side. I had old connections that would call, and, I always sort of dabbled. I was drawing, I do pen and ink drawings.
Your drawings are amazing.
Yeah,
They're
that's
unique.
so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, I found them on your Instagram.
Yeah.
And they really have a recognizable style.
Oh, thank you.
Like, I'm seeing
Norm.
people drawing like that.
Yeah.
Lots of dogs.
Yes.
Lots of dogs.
That was like COVID. That literally I always sort of did that, but COVID really was like that. You literally would draw every day, Norm. And people from all over the world were sending me photos of their dogs. I connected with this pastry chef in Italy, and I would just draw their dog and send them the image. And I got so many, it made me feel, it's a feel good.
Yeah.
People love their pets.
Love that.
Yeah, it was really, I still we'll do that.
And how did you come up with the style of drawing that you use?
I don't know. It just sort of, I needed something to do that was not messy. That was number one.
And these are marker
They're just
drawings?
these black, marker drawings. It's this black ink that I use. And then RISD, freshman year, you can only work in black and white.
Right.
So it was a style, I guess, that sort of, I sort of used then and then just sort of took it over the top. Every day doing that all day long, it just sort of comes.
Right. And are you still doing that? You still draw on that?
Yeah, I still do it. Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Do people hire you to do portraits of their...
It's mostly like, oh, I love your dog. Let me do this.
Right.
I just sort of have to feel it.
So sweet. And do any of your kids have creative desires?
I mean, that's a good question.
How old are they now?
I mean, Alex will be 21 December 22nd, but he's in business school at UVM. Olivia's biomedical engineering at UVM. And then Bennett is in 10th grade.
Wow.
But they're all very creative in their own way.
Uh-huh.
But in terms of like practical arts, I could see my youngest. But, everyone, of course, they're like, no way. I think maybe they hear, Josh and I work together now. We're building these houses. We just built our second one and sold it.
Oh, sweet.
And
where was that?
It was in Statsburg.
Nice.
But they see it's a lot of like on the kitchen table, siding colors, Norm, and paint colors. And they hear us arguing and they're probably like, no way. Oh my God, not another house, please.
Are you? Because you are working with your husband.
Yeah.
And he's the architect.
Yes.
And the de facto, I guess, interior designer.
Yes.
And you're the interior decorator.
Yeah. I'm like, Josh, do this, move this.
Yeah,
but
what?
Move
that. Yeah.
I can't. You've got to get your own craftsperson. I can't do this, But I do think, I think we're having fun, I think it's so fun now.
Yeah. Does he think you're having fun?
I think he does.
That's good.
I think he does now. It's taken him a long time to kind of mellow out to that, working together.
Right. It can be tough for people.
Yeah. I think the ego gets in the way.
Well, yeah, I'll bet. So are those things up in your website?
No. I'm redoing a website.
Okay.
I'm trying to like tell the story and, I feel like it's time
to have a website that's a little more poetic and
tells the full story of me.
I see.
I feel like, I have 3 kids and for a long time my focus has really been on them and
right.
I feel like now I just want to focus on myself.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of women in their 50s would say that.
Yeah.
Norm?
Yeah. So tell the story. Who's going to read? If you're interested in telling the story, who's going to consume that story? In your mind,
who will
want to tell
consume
the
story? I guess someone that finds me. I don't know. Who's going to consume that story? I don't know. That's a good question. People that are looking for designers, creatives to help them create a life.
And to any degree, is it that you want your children to know your story?
My children to know the story?
Yeah.
Well, that's a book, Norm. That's more of a book.
Yeah.
Which I would love to write a book, to be quite honest.
A memoir?
Yes. I think there is a story there for sure. I have a friend who was a filmmaker who went to RISD who, looking back, I think I was so lucky to be placed there because I really am a happy person. And I think I'm really happy because I worked through so much grief and sorrow. And I remember freshman year, another professor gave us rocks. And he said, do something with these rocks. And, I did something so sappy. And, I cast them in ice and hung them in these trees. And I wrote this piece of poetry. And everyone else is doing this edgier, harder stuff. And I think after I explained, at RISD, you had to talk about your work. Words mattered at the time. And, I was crying talking about the work. And this is freshman year. I'm such a goob. I'm so like, oh my God, I'm so hard on myself. But I realized like, oh my God, I'm like, now it was like therapy.
Right.
So there's a book.
Yeah. And have you started the book?
I mean, I've started it throughout my entire life, Norm. I have so many starts and stops and chapters and this and...
So you have files on your computer.
Oh my
where you
God, gobs. I'm a terrible writer. I need help. I need a ghostwriter.
Yeah, well, lots of ghostwriters around.
I know. I should talk to someone. But I have a friend at RISD that knows the story. He's like, I'm going to help you make that. He's a filmmaker. He's like, find me. This is a great movie. I'm going to call him up. I just told Josh,
Right. Well, what parts of the story did this guy particularly spark to? Making him think it's a great movie.
Just these two mothers that were widowed within 4 or 5 years of one another, and then they had these children that they had to raise.
Right.
And my mom was this Tennessee woman brought to the Mississippi Delta, and my aunt was this super sophisticated New Orleans lady who went on to get her doctorate, and she became the dean of Loyola College.
Wow.
And she raised these 5 kids, and my mom was really broken by the experience.
Huh. And is she healed?
Yeah. Yes. She's great now.
And you said that you came through the tragedy and it's made you a happy person.
Yeah.
What were the thoughts or the things that helped you get to the other side, or that you realized when you got to the other side were important thoughts?
I mean,
because lots of people don't.
I know. I think it's really love and being open. You just really have to be open and love and be okay with like crumbling down and letting it go and really feeling it and to move through it. Because I think so many people don't really talk about it and it's all pent up and they're angry or they're frustrated or feel. I think you just have to move through it and just let it go and just remember love. I don't know. Just to be open to really connect.
Right. And when you look back on that time, you think that was the thing that helped you get to this good place?
I mean, I think it's through... look, Norm, I was not into this good place. And, there were many peaks and valleys, But I'd say now in my 50s, having my marriage and my 3 older kids, I'm proud and I'm amazed that, like, I came from that place and here I am now with this career and husband and these amazing kids. I'm proud that amazing. I was never... I also think being fearless. You got to be fearless. You got to go for it.
Right.
I traveled by myself to the Middle East and, I had friends that I was going to, but these were desires that I had. I went to Paris for the first time alone.
God bless
by
you.
myself. Because I'm a very curious person.
Right.
I think curiosity, these were things I had to just check off and do.
Right.
I was like creating a life for myself on my own.
Well, God bless you for checking them off and doing them.
Yeah.
What a fabulous thing. We are out of time.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Over time.
This is so
Adele,
fun.
thank you so much for being here.
It.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a fabulous Friday and a great weekend. Thanks to superstar producer Jen Hammoud and to the Epicurean Corner Store for giving us this space. Adele, what a treat. What a total treat. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
I loved it. Thanks.